Welcome back to another episode of the Best You podcast. Today we're diving into a fascinating conversation about karma with Dr. Lynn Anderson, a renowned expert who brings a refreshing, practical perspective to the topic. If you've ever thought about karma as purely mystical, this episode is going to change your mind. Dr. Anderson breaks down the four great passions that we all experience, like jealousy, envy, and resentment, and explains how we can manage these emotions through simple, grounded actions. By the end of this episode, you're going to have practical tools on how to apply karma's wisdom in your everyday life to handle challenges with more peace and clarity. And I'm not going to lie to you, when I first booked Dr. Lynn Anderson on the podcast and knew that the topic was going to be about karma, I thought it might be a little bit woo-woo and I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to feel about it. But after this interview, I am so excited for you guys to dive in, to listen to what she has to say, and to really see how actually practical it is in our everyday lives. But before we dive in, don't forget to hit the follow button on the Apple Podcasts app and on Spotify. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit like and subscribe down below. Welcome to the Best You podcast. My name is Nick Carrier, and I'm a body optimization coach and creator of the 10-week transformation that has transformed the bodies and the lives of over 800 people thus far. The 10WT makes it simple for former athletes who struggle to prioritize their health and fitness to regain the confidence in their bodies that they once had. For now, it's time to get closer to your best you with Dr. Lynn Anderson. All right, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Best You podcast. Today, I am super excited to be joined by Dr. Lynn Anderson. Today is going to be a unique episode, and I'm really excited for your unique insights on different things with yoga, but especially with karma. I think karma is an idea that a lot of people throw around, but they don't really know that much about it. And so I'm really excited to dive deep into karma and how we can understand it more, how we can maybe use it to our benefit or however we should be using it. Because I know I am somebody who does not know about it nearly deeply enough. So I just want to start off by asking you, what is kind of like your definition of karma?
Well, most of us live in the pop culture, of karma, good karma, bad karma. Oh, I'm going to get bad karma, good karma. That's not karma. Karma, in its very simplistic, is really cause and effect. So it really means it's all about energy. Whatever energy you put out there, there'll be an effect. So if you put out energy that is negative energy, it's going to come back to you. And that's really what it means. Or you become that negative energy. So it's really about being aware of everything that you think, you say, and do, and then putting that out there. So what comes back to you is what you hope will come back and working your karma through.
Yeah. What do you say? I feel like I want to make sure people don't leave the conversation thinking like this is just like a woo-woo kind of conversation. I think most people really believe in this stuff because I think most people have experienced it to a certain extent, right? But what do you say to somebody who's like a skeptic, of somebody who's like, this isn't really how the world works, and what you put out isn't really going to come back to either bite you or come back to bless you, if you will? I guess, like, what do you say to people who are maybe skeptic of the idea of karma, of cause and effect?
Well, first off, yoga. And karma is a philosophy of yoga. Yoga is a science. It's a science and a philosophy. It's not, yes, people do tend to think things are a little woo-woo. But, the basic, there are four great passions that karma teaches us that we all experience. And they are deceit, greed, anger, and pride. And those four great passions, we cannot avoid those, any of us. Every person who is here on earth, we are here to feel and experience everything. So karma goes about giving us a practical guide to deal with these things. And I'll give you an example that I use a lot of times. Let's say that I go and I steal something. I'm a thief. I'm labeled a thief, but I never get caught. I'm still a thief, right? But that I carry that energy with me. And so for the rest of my life, I'm looking over my shoulder. I'm cautious. What am I going to get? I live in that kind of anxiety. So that's an example of putting energy out. You do something, and it doesn't mean that, well, I stole something, I got caught, I go to jail. There's my karma. I carry that energy with me, and that energy is going to have an effect on my life. If I'm always looking over my shoulder and I'm always anxious and fearful, then I play my life out that way.
No, I think that's a very, I think that's such a great example of somebody who might be skeptical being like, realizing like, oh, wait, if I do something, that doesn't necessarily mean that the world is going to strike me down because of doing that thing. But it's like, no, but because I do that thing, maybe I'm going to be the one who punishes myself, or the energy that I give off is going to end up punishing me in some way, shape, or form. And therefore, I'm not going to be able to do something or be someone, etc.
Exactly. So it pulls you back and you've got all this anxiety and stuff going on there. And then what we aren't able to create, we aren't able to grow. And really why we are here is to grow and create as human beings. But we can't get through it without experiencing all the feelings. Everybody would like to live in a utopia, but we don't live in a utopia. Every person in here will experience deceit, greed, anger, and pride in their lifetime. It's what they do with those.
Mm. Well, so talk a little bit deeper about these four: deceit, greed, anger, and pride. How does karma teach us how to handle these particular things? Like if we're feeling one of these particular ways, what's the next step to either not feel, or how does it teach us to respond to these different emotions?
Okay. Well, for example, anger. Everybody knows what anger feels like.
Mm-hmm.
If I say something and I make you angry, you feel it in your body. The body tenses up. There's a rage that goes through us. That's anger. Now, if you're aware of that and you're able to say, wait a minute, anger has me, that emotion, and you're able to step back and take a breath and then approach me in a different way, you will diffuse what's going on and you will remove the anger. But most people, when anger hits, we're in it, and it's raging out here. And then it creates even a bigger and bigger problem between us, problems out here. So it all comes down to awareness of what's happening when these emotions take over our physical, mental, and soulful self.
So are there different strategies? So like step one is awareness. Are there different strategies to, okay, I'm aware that I am being prideful right now. What do I need to do? I'm aware I'm angry. You gave the example of I'm aware that I'm angry. Let's step back, maybe take a few deep breaths so that, like you said, it's a physiological thing. You can feel the sense of being angry, and so you can do some things so that your physiological state actually changes. Are there like kind of different methodologies, if you will, for overcoming greed, overcoming anger, overcoming pride, overcoming deceit once you're aware of it?
Well, awareness doesn't mean that we can remove it. We're aware of a lot of things, where, hey, I'm angry and, or I'm feeling prideful. And so awareness is the first step, but then it's practice, 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 and keep on practicing. And that's what yoga and the philosophy and the science is about, because you may be angry and you may react, and then you may afterwards say, oh, I really regret that. And you go into that and you start thinking a little deeper about what you did. And then the next time, maybe you pull back a little more. And it's not something that's instantaneous. It's just like the practice of yoga. If you want to be able to master anything, it's called practice, 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 and keep on practicing. I use athletes. The greatest athletes in the world don't stop practicing once they hit the top. We got to keep doing it and remind ourselves of it.
Gotcha. I like that. So what did you call these? The four great what?
Passions, the four great passions of that we all experience in life. And the reverse of those, deceit is being honest. You reverse that. Greed, be generous. Anger, be kind. And pride, be humble. So it's flipping those around and saying, here they are. These are for the alternatives, maybe are better ways to live your life. Perhaps maybe your karma, the things that come to you, the good things and the joy in life will come by flipping that and working the four other passions.
I love it. You read my mind. I was getting ready to say, like, is there an opposite or whatever? And you just gave the four things perfectly. So I love those. Those four things are just really good guidelines to hold yourself to kind of like standards or values to be holding yourself to as you're going throughout your life. Those are the types of energy where if you put out, either things might, come back to you, or you're just going to be feeling so much better about yourself and who you're becoming and what you're doing.
Absolutely. I mean, and we know this by studies, we know when people do acts of kindness. If I do something kind to someone, yes, they receive that, but I receive so much more. There's
Mm.
a physiological response, there's a psychological response to giving, you know, and it's a wonderful feeling. And when you do that, your energy flows, and then creativity comes in, and goals that you have are easier to reach.
Get first access to registration for the January 2025 10-week transformation and get 50% off a personalized meal plan. What's up, you guys? This is Nick Carrier, body optimization coach and creator of the 10WT. And I am really excited to announce that for the January 20th 10-week transformation, you can sign up for the 10WT waitlist. And what does that do for you? Two things, two benefits, two perks. Number one is you're going to get first access to registration. The in-person 10-week transformation only has so many spots. There's a 5 a.m. group, 6 a.m. group, 10 a.m. group, and they're in super high demand. And it's the beginning of the year, so a lot of people are going to want to get in so they can get healthier and get more fit to kick off the year. And I don't want you to miss out on your opportunity. From January 20th to March 28th, you can partake in the next session of the 10-week transformation. But you want to get on the wait list so you can be first notified when registration opens. If you don't, you might miss out on your opportunity because there's going to be a window of time when only people on the wait list can register. And then after that, it gets opened up to everybody. And so you don't want to miss out on this opportunity. So sign up for the wait list going to nickcarrier.com/10WT waitlist. Also, the second big perk of it is you'll get 50% off a personalized meal plan. You'll get a breakfast, lunch, and dinner recipe for every single day for 10 straight weeks in order to accelerate your results. But that is only an offer for people who get on the wait list. So go to nickcarrier.com/10WT waitlist. Again, nickcarrier.com/10WT waitlist to get first access and 50% off a personalized meal plan so you can start off 2025 looking and feeling your best yet. Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt. I love those four things. So simple: honest, generosity, kind, and humble. Those are so good. Now, I know that you also, from consuming some of your other content, you talk about the troublesome four. Talk to us about, I guess, what the troublesome four are first off, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, the troublesome four will come marching in, as I tell my students, one by one, or they'll come in all at once. And they are envy, jealousy, resentment, and revenge. And again, just like the four great passions, we all will experience these troublesome four to one degree or another in our lifetime. And just to kind of give you, it's confusing. Some people are confused by especially envy and jealousy. Envy is an emotion where we want to take something from someone. Jealousy is a fear that something is being taken from us. So they are two different things, but sometimes we react in the same way with those two things. Resentment is an anger at, we have expectations in life, and when they don't work out, we become resentful towards people and situations. And then revenge is it's that horrible thing of wanting to right what we see as a wrong. I want to make sure I come out as on top with revenge. And you never do with revenge, because revenge gets into your soul. And anyone who's ever been in a revengeful situation knows that it just eats you up inside. It consumes you. And so who does it destroy? You, ultimately.
Yeah. No, I love that breakdown. That was so good. So let's kind of, I want to discuss maybe the dichotomy of envy versus jealousy. I think so many people nowadays struggle with comparing themselves to other people via social media, etc., and getting insight into other people's lives, and they feel less than. Is that more of an envy thing, or is that more of a jealousy thing, do you think, for most people?
That's more of an envy thing, because they're feeling that, this person it has all of this. I want what this person has. I don't feel good about myself because I'm not gorgeous on there, on the camera. But, when you realize most of it's fake, I mean, you take two steps back and go, oh, wait a minute, why am I, admire the person. The opposite of that is to admire someone and then try to develop those qualities within yourself. Because we all have every person has their own unique talents. Every person is worthy. It's just we live in a society that really tries to suppress people.
I love that. I think what you said there is so, so good, because a very popular thing that gets thrown around by people who are trying to be positive is like telling people not to compare yourself. And I think like to an extent that is an okay recommendation, because I think generally speaking, the comparison that we should be doing mostly is comparing your current self to your past self, not necessarily your current self to other people. But at the same time, comparison is inevitable because we have insight into other people's lives. And so one of the things that I've said in the past is don't use your comparison to knock you down. Use comparison to motivate you. But I do think you said it perfectly. Like, use comparison as an admiration. I mean, like, man, their uniquenesses, they're shining a light on the world and like, if that is actually something I want, like, hey, they're showing me it's attainable. I can maybe make steps to be more like that myself.
Exactly. But of course, again, that takes a big leap. That takes an awareness and it takes a different mindset. And that's what karma is. If you turn that corner as opposed to the comparison, oh, I feel so bad about myself. You see two different energies out there. Which energy are you going to be drawn to? You're going to be drawn to that positive energy. So you put that out there, people are drawn to that. Opportunities happen, prosperity happens, because everybody wants to associate with positive. Nobody wants a downer, right?
No, I love it. I love it. So, you just mentioned how flipping envy to admiration is a good way to maybe, is a good skill to be able to develop for somebody who compares themselves a lot to other people. Is there any other recommendation or advice that you would give to somebody who finds themselves in that cycle of looking at other people on social media or looking at other people in their houses and their cars and whatever it is, to either, minimize the comparison that they're doing or flip the comparison that they're doing in a positive way?
Well, there's two things. Number one, it's realizing that we are all unique. There is nobody like you or me here on this earth, and we all have these unique talents. And that's really to come back and realize that you can never be that other person. You're not that other person. And the second thing is we have to be really careful with wealth and material things, because we measure ourselves by our house and our car and our bank account and where we are, up that socioeconomic level. But, the most important thing is your health and your happiness and your joy, body, mind, and soul. Because when you lose that, it doesn't matter how much money you have, it's gone. And we can use, who I always use, Steve Jobs. He had more money than God, let's say. But when he became ill, what did it matter? It didn't matter. So the real thing is to find joy in your life. If you have joy in your life, you have more than the richest people in the world. If they're, don't have that joy.
Yeah, no, I think that's so good. Realization of uniqueness is key. And then obviously not using material things to define you. Like, you are not defined by the material things that you have or anything like that. You're defined by your integrity, your honesty, your humility, your generosity, your kindness, those types of things. So that's great. I want to dive into the third one, I think, a little bit next, with resentment. You talked about how resentment can sometimes come from us placing expectations on ourselves or placing expectations on other people, and either we or other people fall short of those expectations. And I'm somebody who's really big on trying not myself to place expectations on other people, because to me, that's almost like an arrogant type thing. It's like, who am I to expect this person to do a certain thing or say a certain thing or be a certain way? Obviously, that's much easier said than done. But I think, like, also expectations on yourself is a tricky thing, because I think we should have high expectations or high standards for ourselves, but at the same time, you don't want to do yourself a disservice by having improper expectations. So I guess kind of riff on that idea of expectations, both with how we should properly use them with other people or maybe not at all, and then properly use them with ourselves or not at all.
Well, karma teaches us that as long as you have expectations, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. You know, because what we have to understand is life and energy is continually moving. So if I expect something and it doesn't happen, it may not be a fault of mine or a fault of anyone else's. It's circumstances. Life is constantly changing. And you and I cannot sit here and tell the world what's going to happen 10 minutes from now. We have no idea. Life is continually moving. So it's about having the flexibility and the movement. Now, that doesn't mean don't set goals for yourself. But those goals, I can tell you in my life, I've set goals and I've taken detours and I've gone over them and I've dropped them and I've gone in different directions, you know. And so it's being open to the flow of what's going on around you and not getting yourself stuck in those in expectations, in little boxes, putting yourself in a box.
No, I love that. And I want to expand kind of deeper on the goals and expectations side of things here momentarily, because I think that's a really important topic to cover. But one of the things you first said in answering that question is, as long as you have expectations, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Or that's what they like karma teachers or whatnot. Is being disappointed a bad thing? Like, is that necessarily bad if we could potentially be disappointed? Like, to me, sometimes a certain level of disappointment might be helpful or might be useful in motivating you moving forward. So what do you think about that?
Well, the first thing is we all are here to experience disappointment. As a human being, when you come to Earth, and karma teaches that we reincarnate, when you come to Earth, you're here to experience everything it is to be a human being. And human beings will experience disappointment. It's a fact of life. Again, all of the emotions, all of the feelings, it's what you do with them. Like you said, there's a disappointment, and I've been disappointed in my life when things didn't work out, and it was really funny. I walked around the corner and I had an opportunity. And had that have worked out, I would not have gotten the opportunity. So it's how you look at disappointments. You know, what are they really? Sometimes they're little messages that say, hey, you're going down the wrong road. Here's another way to go. But oftentimes people can get caught in that. It's like a big hole they get into. I'm a failure. You're not a failure. There's no such thing as failure, you know? Just get up and go at it again.
I love it. I love it. One of my mentors likes to say that oftentimes a disappointment turns into an appointment for something else. So I love that idea. So I want to go back to the expectations and goals, because I am the type of person who loves setting goals for myself, and I love to try to be as disciplined and hard-nosed on those goals as I can, but while simultaneously having the complete understanding of exactly what you said, of like sometimes you only have so much knowledge when it comes to setting the goals that you have for yourself. And so like understanding that you set that goal to the best of your ability, thinking that it might be right, but at the same time, knowing that it might be the wrong path for yourself. How can we better know and understand when on path to a particular goal, whether when we're faced with like maybe adversity, challenge, doubt, whether or not we should stay persistent, or whether or not to pivot, whether or not to drop, etc.?
Well, one of the wonderful characteristics that karma yoga teaches us that is a good characteristic to develop is called tenacity. Tenacity is the ability to keep going, even when it seems that maybe you're failing or it's not working. But that, if it's backed by passionate joy for what you're doing, it never becomes work. You know, it's like I'm a writer, and it takes a lot of tenacity and a lot of discipline to write every day and to do that. And it takes a lot when you get rejection after rejection after, things go out and you get rejection to keep going. But why do I keep doing it? Because it fills me with joy. And I love what I'm doing. If you don't love what you're doing and you're chasing something for money or for whatever, and you're doing it, but it's not filling you with joy, you have missed the point of life. We are here. The only reason we are here is to experience ultimate joy. And karma teaches us that the greatest percentage of our energy goes into destroying joy. Now, think about that one for a minute. And we do that as human beings. We crush everything down rather than lifting it up and experiencing joy.
That's great. I love that. I think that's such a good internal check of when we are going about a goal and we're faced with adversity or challenge or whatnot, and we're trying to determine whether or not, like, hey, keep going, or like, it's time to pivot, or it's time to drop. Like, ask yourself, is this actually providing you with joy? I love that it's backed by passionate joy. I know that's going to be something that is going to be like embedded in my brain moving forward, of whether or not to continue to pursue things or whether or not to pivot or not. That's great.
Yeah, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, switch gears. Life is, you're not going to fall apart. Life will open doors up to you if you are doing it from that place of, passion. Too many times we get caught into jobs or situations that is not really what we want or we want to do, but we're doing it because somebody else expects us to do it, or we expect ourselves to be a doctor, a lawyer, whatever the status may be, and we're always disappointed when we go down that road.
Yeah, no, that's great. You mentioned how you said the ultimate karma teaches that the ultimate reason we're on this earth is to experience ultimate joy, but we spend most of our energy actually destroying that. Expand on that a little bit.
Well, I mean, there's always, all you have to do is turn on social media, and it's, you're always getting hammered down, and, we don't, for some reason, we don't feel that that's a wonderful thing to do, to get up every day and experience the joy of life. No, I got to go to work. I got to pay the bills. I got to do this. We get into that drudgery when, you could get up in the morning and, I mean, I went for a walk today and there was some beautiful flowers blooming, and it was just, I stopped for a moment, it was pure joy. I just felt it. I was like, wow, that's really nice. We need to do more of that in our lives, because it's good for our health as well.
That's great. That's great. The last little thing I want to, I think, talk about today is you talk about the yoga of healthy nutrition and reinventing how and what you eat so that you can manage your weight, improve sleep, reduce anxiety and depression, address burnout and stress, and have more vital energy and take a proactive approach to aging. One of the things that jumps out to me in that is reinvent how and what you eat. Most of the people talk about what you eat. There's not really that many people talking about how you eat. Tell me a little bit about how we eat and how that impacts our health.
Well, first off, scientifically, it's taking the food in, and we're supposed to chew and enjoy and taste and savor. And when you chew your food properly and you take that time to savor what you're putting in your mouth, you create a lot of saliva. And the saliva has enzymes in it. And that's what you need to break down the food in your body and make sure that you digest properly and assimilate and eliminate. And if you're putting food in and you're shoving it in and you're not taking the time to relax, you're not really doing a justice to your digestive system. And so yoga reminds us, yes, it's very important what you eat, but pay attention to how you eat. Take that time to really savor the food and appreciate that you have this wonderful meal in front of you, and chew and swallow and take your time digesting.
No, I think that's so great. There, like you said, there is like actual science behind that of like, you need to make sure that, digestion begins in your mouth. There's different points of digestion, but it begins in your mouth, and your saliva has so many enzymes to start to break down, especially the carbs and fats, starting in your mouth before they go down. And, I think a lot of people probably have digestive issues because they're just continually eating food so quickly, and they're eating on the go, and they're not paying attention to the speed at which they're eating. And so I do think that I can actually make a big physiological impact regardless of just what you eat, but paying close attention to how you're doing it.
Right. Well, you're supposed to chew the food up and not swallow it whole. And when you break food down, what you do is you create that synergy where because food has vitamins and minerals in it. And that's what your body needs. Your body doesn't care what you eat. What it cares about are you giving me the right vitamins and minerals. That's all the body cares about, for its fuel. But you need to sometimes, we need to break that food down because there's fibers and all kinds of things in food. So it's that, but it's also appreciating the taste and the smell of the food as well, which does an awful lot for your digestive system and for your psychology as well.
Yeah, no doubt. It's very interesting. I haven't dove into these studies that I'm about to mention, but I know there's studies done that literally there's people who eat the same things. One group eats one thing, the other group eats the same exact thing, but the first group actually believes that what they're eating is healthy for them, and the other group believes that what they're eating is unhealthy for them, and they're eating the same exact thing. And the people who believe it's healthy for them, it actually has a different physiological response and biological response inside of their body simply because how they think about it. Again, that sounds kind of like woo-woo, like that's probably not real, but there are actual studies that show that. And so that's just another branch of how you eat, how that can impact your biology and physiology.
Well, your brain and your body, this is your computer up here. There's a communication system, and you can't chew unless the brain's telling this jaw to move. The jaw is just sitting there, but there's got to be that right communication system. So if you were sitting down with something and you go, wow, this is really healthy, and it really, you change, your psychology changes too. The way you approach everything changes, rather than, yes, people can sit down, they can eat a healthy diet, and they can be, let's say you're really stressed and but you got this really healthy salad, but you're just shoving it in, and you're stressed while you're doing it. Your body is reacting in a way, and it can't properly digest the food. So the body and the mind, the brain, the body, mind, and soul, they have to work together in order for us to create balance. That's the key to everything, is perfect balance.
I love it. I love it, man. This has been awesome. I have absolutely loved the topics that we've covered today. You guys need to make sure you go follow Dr. Lynn Anderson on social media, on Instagram at Dr. LAA, and you can go to her website, drlynn.com. Before we finish, is there any other good place for people to go learn more about you and learn about the different things that you teach and practice?
That's probably the best way, because if they go to my website, all my social media is there, everything's there. There's everything they need to know. I'm available.
Yeah, great, awesome. Lastly, I'm just going to kind of leave it open to you. Is there anything else that you feel like you'd like to share about karma, or that people need to know about karma so that they can actually leverage these ideas and these thought patterns to live the life that they were meant to live and get closer to the best version of themselves?
Well, just understand it's a very practical system. And so if you step back from it and you think about awareness, once you're aware of anything that you do, you have the ability to change it. You have this thing called free will, which karma really promotes. We have free will. We have choices. And we can be in a very bad situation, and we have a choice to make that a positive situation. And as long as you understand that and how to use your free will, then you will understand how to work karma.
I love it, man. Such great stuff today. Like she said, the four great passions are deceit, greed, anger, and pride. I love the alternatives as a compass, as a value system: honesty, generosity, kindness, humility, like all things and ideas that you've heard before. But if you can keep those top of mind and let those guide you in your actions and in the energy that you put out into the world, that'll take you a long way. And then I really loved also talking about tenacity and how to ensure that when you're going about your goals and you might be thrown a curveball and thrown adversity and thrown a challenge, like ask yourself, is what I'm doing backed by passionate joy? And if it is, like, let's stay the course. If it's not, maybe it's time to pivot, maybe it's time to drop or something else. But that's been so good. Lynn, this has been an absolute blast today. You guys, if you are listening on the Apple Podcast app or on Spotify, make sure you follow the show if you don't already so you're notified of the new episodes. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button down below. And if you found this helpful, share it with a friend or a family member who you feel like could leverage some of these tools and philosophies that she shared today. This has been an absolute blast. Lynn, that is all we got. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
What a powerful episode. Dr. Lynn shared a refreshing and practical view on karma, showing us how we can use its wisdom to tackle challenging emotions like jealousy, envy, and resentment. The main takeaway was understanding how karma's principles can be applied in real life to help us grow and find peace. Before we wrap up, don't forget to hit the follow button on the Apple Podcast app and on Spotify. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button down below so you're notified of our future episodes that we continue to bring out to you guys. Here are my 3 biggest takeaways from today's episode. Number 1 is the power of awareness. Step 1 is recognizing and understanding the 4 great passions when they arise in ourselves. And it helps us to confront them, to take a step back, and move forward and move past these negative emotions. Number 2 is that karma has practical applications. It's not just this woo-woo, spiritual, mystical topic. It offers real, actionable strategies to handle challenges and stay grounded. I think I loved the most how she talked about the 4 alternatives are honesty, generosity, kindness, and humility. If we can use those as guiding values, as guiding North Stars, then we're going to be living a much better life and putting out a lot more positive energy into the universe. And that's the 3rd and final takeaway, the alternative actions away from deceit, greed, anger, and pride, and towards honesty, generosity, kindness, and humility. Use those on an everyday basis in order to help guide your life. If you can do these things, you'll continue to get closer to the healthiest version of yourself, and ultimately, you'll continue to get closer and closer to your best